Well, the calendar says it's spring, but don't believe it. This weather continues to harass us all. But it's our hometown today. Lyons, New York. The dog was born there back in 1945. I got a couple of pals coming in on the couch today talking basketball, talking girls and boys Lyons basketball. Welcome on a Monday, the 24th of March, 2014. Another edition of Weber This Week. Good morning, everybody. It's snowing outside. It's miserable. It's cold, and it's March 24th. And the calendar may say spring, but I got my heavy winter jacket on. That tells you it's not quite spring yet. But we're expecting, according to Zac and Eric, we're expecting 53 on Friday, if we can make it till Friday. Good morning. We got a special show this morning. A couple of guys coming in from Lyons and talking about their programs. And without further ado, Eric Kuhn, the varsity girls basketball coach. Eric, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us on today.
And, of course, buddy of mine. And, of course, I must tell you, disclaimer, I grew up hanging out with his dad and a lot of his relatives way back when, the days of LaBelle's. You remember those days, Zach? You don't remember them, but
they weren't called LaBelle. We didn't refer to it as LaBelle's at home.
Okay,
I think it was downtown.
Well, I used to hang out with your family there at downtown. A lot of good times with Zach's dad, and we had a good time growing up and having some laughs. But they're here to talk about some basketball, about their programs, their seasons, and the outlook for next year. And, of course, then after the break, we're going to talk about the Sweet 16. Lots to talk about with these guys since they know the game of basketball. First off, Eric, let's talk a little bit about yourself for our viewership. Give us a little background on where you went to school and how you got involved in coaching basketball.
I'm a local Mid-Lakes grad, so I'm from the area.
Uh-huh.
I've been teaching at Lyons for 13 years now, and 12 years. Got into coaching girls when I did a year stint at Mid-Lakes. When I got into teaching, Johnny Wilbur over there said, JV's position. I'm like, all right, 1 year. I can I'll do girls for 1 year, and 13 years later,
Still doing
it.
Well, you had an outstanding season. You certainly took it a long way. And give us a little capsule about the season, how you felt it went.
Going into the season, I thought, we had talent.
Yep.
We had returning starters. I had 7 seniors this year. The previous 2 years, we lost in the sectional final. So really thought this was going to be our year. Underachieved a little, I think, during league play. We lost a couple games that definitely shouldn't have, and probably my fault as much as anybody, but made a good postseason run and, was 1 game away from making state. So I had a good run. And
certainly you got to be proud of the kids. And certainly, now how many do you return next year? How many do you?
I have 4, 5-ish that were on the team this year. So and had a pretty strong JV team. And if we get our girl that transferred her sophomore year was in Carolina, talk of her coming back again would definitely bolster the program.
Well, you certainly for a 1-year trial period, now you're sort of engrossed into it, and you're doing a good job over there.
Thank you, sir.
And Zach, of course, the boys varsity program, you're certainly well respected throughout the area as an excellent coach, an up-and-coming coach. Certainly talk about the boys program. You, of course, were hit with the injury bug with your team at the end.
Yeah, a little bit. Kind of about the second half of the season, we had some guys out, but we hung in there, and we ended up with a decent year. And our JVs had a very successful season. I think we were 14-4 at the JV level, and we got about 5 or 6 kids I think that can contribute next year. And we lose 3 seniors, 2 of which were starters, so we should have some experience coming back.
Talk about your background as far as where you went to school and how you got involved in coaching from the get-go.
I'm a Waterloo grad, and I played for Coach Joe Spizzato.
Oh, yeah, Jumpin' Joe.
Yep. So we had a lot of good times together. And I went to Brockport, always wanted to get into coaching, and student taught at Newark, and I had a great experience there under Ron Cervolo and Bob Havrilla. And right out of college, I got lucky enough to get a job at Mid-Lakes and worked under Jeff Panic, who's now the Waterloo AD. So I had a lot of good coaches to learn from. And then a position opened at Lyons, and I coached under Steve Eater there for a couple years as well. So had some very successful coaches under which I got to learn quite a bit.
And by the way, let's give credit to your administration. This is a school day. They're here on the couch for Weber This Week. And Zach, talk about the people that made this possible, giving you the approvals to come down here today. So it's nice to have you
I
here.
just asked my AD, Steve Eater,
All
if
right.
he could come down and kind of bolster the programs a
Well,
little
we
bit.
certainly need you guys to come down, and I know it's sometimes tough, and I appreciate to Steve and everybody involved in making that happen, because obviously the show's 9:30 to 10 on a Monday morning, and these guys have other things to do besides come on the show. We appreciate them coming in. We're going to talk about first off, before we go to a commercial break in a few minutes, I want you guys to talk about the Romulus feat of the girls. And Eric, you certainly coach the girls team. You know what it's like. If you blink going down 96 or 414 heading over it, you're going to miss Romulus to the right. I think it's one of the more incredible stories that Romulus took it all the way, won the states, and your thoughts on Damon Nicholson and what a superb job they did.
Awesome job, and he is, one of the best in the area, if not, in the state. To take that team and to watch them play, I got to watch them play in the state qualifier before we played at Waterloo a couple weeks ago, and you talk about a class. I mean, for a Class D school,
amazing.
With the athleticism, and I mean, they just poured it on poor Prattsburg that night, and they did the same thing down in Troy, and kudos to them. I think Damon's been running that program, and they've gotten better and better, and he just does a solid job, and they played awesome.
And Zach, you certainly know about fan support. When I had a chance to watch them a couple of games at the end of the year, it looked like nobody was left in Romulus. The support was phenomenal.
Yeah, like you were the second game of that doubleheader, right?
Yeah.
And I came over. I was going to catch the end of the Romulus game. And I don't live too far from Waterloo High School,
right.
But I almost had to park. I should have just walked from my house. I mean,
exactly.
it was crazy the number of people that were there. And I also think that Romulus, should support Section 5 because in the last couple of years they might have had to play Batavia Notre Dame, and Batavia Notre Dame was up. Yeah, they probably should have been, and that might have I know it's happened. It happened to Eric a couple of years ago when he had to play Bishop Kearney in the sectional finals. So that was nice for Romulus. They got to play all schools their side, no privates, and that makes it easier. And kudos to them as well.
Well, I'll tell you something. They're going to have a celebration for them in a couple of weeks at the Club 86 to honor this team. I believe it's the 6th of April at the Club 86. More details to follow. They're going to celebrate this team, and certainly, Jimmy, you had a chance to follow them as well, and it was quite the achievement for Damon and his coaching staff and the girls. We had Olivia in here, as you know.
Olivia and Jessica Liver, Brandon,
Jessica Rones were on the couch a few weeks ago, and it's really a story that, since I'm kind of old, I'll be 69 in a couple of weeks, but it's kind of nice to see a community spirit turn out like this and see a team that lives in little teeny Romulus go all the way and win the states. Pretty amazing stuff.
Well, there's nothing like it.
Nothing like it.
And it's for any community, Romulus, to get behind a team like that and then ride it all the way is really something special. And the thing that makes it special isn't so much the notoriety around the state, what other people think. It's just how you feel about yourself in that community. And it's something that you'll never forget. Here in Seneca Falls, Minders won a state title in 1992, and we still talk about it.
The Verk man.
And everybody remembers those guys, and everybody remembers the run to it and where they were and what games they went to. So it's really something special that doesn't happen very often. So I think that's the main reason why, we take so much note of it. But question for you guys as coaches.
Yep.
Long season, for high school basketball, starting in the October practices, early November practices.
Yeah, right around there.
And then, all the way through till February, March, the bus rides, a lot of issues with you're dealing with kids, so a lot of issues come up that you have to deal with, and you try to get them to buy into your system. And at this point, are you relieved that you got a little extra free time?
Well, I can't speak for Zach, but we both coach spring sports.
Yeah.
Our wives are going to kill us. But, we jumped literally ended the basketball season. We made a decent run, so we played right up till spring sports started and, right into that. So
what are you coaching?
I'm the varsity golf coach at Lyons.
Okay. Oh, well, that's good. You get to play golf.
Yeah, I'm not complaining, trust me.
How about you, Zach? What are you coaching?
Modified baseball.
Oh, so that's a little more.
So I have a little longer break than Eric does, but I will say maybe the practice. The hardest thing about the winter sports, especially at Lyons, is the late practice, the late practices. Not so much the games, but getting home at 9:30 sometimes can make for a long winter. And the spring sports you don't have that as much. We're pretty much after school, so that's a little easier in the spring. Definitely easier on the crew at home for both of us.
Well, Eric, you may want to leave the Titleist in the trunk for a while because it doesn't look like there's going to be any balls being hit for a while.
Even when the snow clears, I think the ground thaw is going to take forever. It's going to be like hitting off a runway. Ugh.
One thing I was going to ask coaches, and I've been involved in play-by-play for many years doing this stuff, What do you guys think about? I know when the sectionals hit and these qualifiers, et cetera, a lot of these games tip off at 9:30 on a school night. Is that something that concerns you guys, or is that something it's just part of the game and they have to do it that late and they can't make them up earlier? I've always wondered about some of these games tip off at 10 o'clock at night on a school night.
Yeah, I question the scheduling, and I think Section 5 overall does a fantastic job. I think they try to make it as big an event as possible, so they probably overschedule, because I know Geneva boys. We had a late sectional game. I'm driving home after I drove all the way back to Lyons. It's 11:30 and Geneva's still on the radio playing. So, I mean, I think scheduling could be a little better.
Zach, your opinion on that scheduling side of it?
I think they do a pretty good job. I think it's not as big of an issue for me when it's not during the week. You know, if you tip off at 9:30 on a Friday or a Saturday, it's not as bad when you don't have to get up the next day. But the Geneva game, I know what happened is when they play at the Blue Cross, they pay a fee for the night. So they try to get as many games there as possible. But I do think that took away from the Geneva crowd. There wasn't hardly any kids there. You want to be able to bring your kid to a semifinal game, and they tipped off at 9:30. There really wasn't that many people there. So maybe for a semi game, maybe a 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock, a little bit of a more local start. Local time and a local start would have been a little bit better.
Well, we talk about that. We'll move into, after the commercial break, we'll talk about the Sweets down to Sweet 16. Some of these tip-off times are really late. By the way, that Romulus affair is Sunday night, April the 6th. It just clicked on. Club 86 in Geneva. I believe it starts at 5 o'clock. It'll be advertised in the Finger Lakes Times, and Jimmy will certainly put it on the homepage here. But if you want to get out and celebrate this Romulus state title championship and show honor to the ladies and to their parents, et cetera, it's April 6th, Sunday night at the Club 86. I believe it starts at 5 o'clock. And again, more details, and I would urge you to get out there and support this phenomenal effort as the Romulus Lady Warriors are state champions. Hey, by the way, we're going to take our commercial break. When we come back, Eric Kuhn, Zac Young will be in to talk about the Sweet 16 and how they feel. The NCAA March Madness will continue. We'll be right back. Eagle Lake National Bank. Bill Ryan and his team for all of your banking needs. Offices in Union Springs and Aurora. A fine sponsor of this show for over 30 years. DA Liquor, Seneca Falls. Amy Padula and her great team will find that right spirit for you every time. Tell Amy the dog sent you. Steve Wadhams, Wadhams Enterprises, your employer of choice. Proud supporter of this show and local athletics. Steve Muller Motors, smullermotors.com. Quality, affordable vehicles, both foreign and domestic. Bob and Leslie Oman, owners of the Oman Theater in Lyons, as well as the Newark Pilots, a minor league baseball team with a major league ballpark. Lizard's Tailgater Lounge, Waterloo. Best mott sticks around, where you can enjoy a drink and some laughs. SenecaFallsCountryClub.com. Awesome 18-hole layout, offering a 12-month payment plan. Home of the toughest par 4 in central New York. That'd be number 16. Wilson Press, WPress.com. Seneca Falls, Rich Ricky, my good friend, and his team can handle all of your printing and mailing needs. Rich Ricky, Wilson Press, a fine sponsor of Weber This Week. We're back. It's Weber This Week on a snowy Monday, March 24th. Eric Kuhn and the girls' varsity coach at Lyons, and, of course, Zac Young, the boys' varsity coach, both joining us on the couch this morning talking about their seasons, paying tribute to Romulus. Now we're going to get into Sweet 16, the NCAA March Madness. Certainly, want to remind everybody, by the way, speaking of our sponsors, Jimmy being the president of Seneca Falls Country Club, Eric thinking about golfing, coaching golf at his school. I might add the season's open officially April 1st.
Reserve
Jimmy,
your tee time now.
I'll reserve it right now. But, Jimmy, talk about that special at the club. It's one I talked about last night to some of my buddies at the poker game that I was involved in, and I lost $7 for you people that are updating my losses. Jimmy, talk about that special, including the cards. It's a sweet deal.
$1,200 single membership with cart.
Can't beat it.
For the year.
Nice.
You can get on a payment program with a credit card too, which makes it even easier.
Yep.
$1,800 for a family.
Yep.
I mean, you just can't beat it, and it is gonna warm up.
It
at
is?
some point, and you're going to want to play some golf. So we want you to sign up by April 1st for that deal.
Okay.
So time's running out. You want to go to SenecaFallsCountryClub.com or call Seneca Falls Country Club 315-568-2676.
And by the way, that's a great deal. I like taking carts. Sometimes I like to go down and play 3 holes, 6 holes, 10 holes, 50 holes. Get a cart, just go round and around and around. Costs you $15 a pop. You add up those $15 denominations.
Well, that's the beauty of the membership.
Yeah, you can just get a key and run.
Yeah, I like to go down sometimes.
I do too.
7:30 at night in the summer, pop out to the middle of the course and play 3 holes.
Yep.
Bring my daughter, my dog sometimes, but that's the beauty of it. And it's such a beautiful place to be in the summer. And as the evening goes on, it kind of clears out, and you really have the whole place to yourself.
Yeah.
It's just not. It's unique to be able to do that. I have friends that golfed with me when they were kids. They moved away. They have to pay $80 a round, or if they want to join a nice club, they're putting down $5,000 or $6,000 initiation fee minimum, and
a lot of cash.
So.
Hey, by the way, we got a couple of talented basketball coaches. Who else better to talk about with the Sweet 16, get their opinions on what's happened. We're not going to spend a lot of time at the wake of Syracuse. That is over now. We all know, unless you just got back from Moscow, it's not a good subject to talk about the SU grad Jimmy now. Let's put it this way. You don't make a three-point effort against anybody, especially if you're Syracuse. I don't like your chance of winning, and even it proved out the other night. Outstanding season, yes. Disappointing end, yes. But no threes. Good night, Irene. And, hey, give Dayton some credit. Obviously, they were there at the end, and that's the key. Eric, Zach, let's get your thoughts. Let's talk about moving on. Florida, UCLA should be a good one.
Yeah.
Eric, take it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Florida, just top to bottom, the most depth. I think Billy Donovan's probably the best coach in the country. I've always been a big fan, and I think they're primed. They're my pick to, in my pool. They're one of the few teams I have left. They're my pick to win.
They're most impressive against Pittsburgh. I think of all the teams I saw the past weekend, they were the most impressive in their win against Pitt. The defense was great.
Zach, Florida, you like that game?
I think Florida will win. Yeah, I just don't see UCLA being able to hang with them they might be able to hang with them for a half, but.
Well, the Dayton Flyers take on the likes of Stanford. Your thoughts, Eric?
It's disappointing because Syracuse should be playing Stanford, so it's tough to swallow. But I don't know, Stanford looked good in their games. I don't think Kansas played well yesterday, but I love Johnny Dawkins, coach at Stanford, and anything can happen right now.
How about you, Zach?
I watched Dayton play twice, and I know they didn't shoot particularly well versus Syracuse either, but they just kind of like a grinded out team, and I think that they will be able to defend Stanford's bigs a little better than Kansas did. So I'm going to go with the Dayton Flyers. Plus, their fans were very rowdy on Saturday. And, they were like, it's like a once-in-a-lifetime thing for some of those people to get to the Sweet 16. So I'm squeezing for the Flyers from here on out.
Eric Kuhn along with Zac Young. We're talking Sweet 16. And a team in my mind, so far, I label them the Rodney Dangerfield of the NCAAs, Virginia. Everybody seems to shortchange Virginia continuously. They're not that good. They're not going to go anywhere. They're there, and they got Michigan State.
Yeah, they looked. I was one of those non-believers in Virginia, even through the end of their ACC title run, and they looked really good yesterday. So I'm pulling for them. I'm not pulling for them because I have alternative motives with the Michigan State team. Tom Izzo squad, they're always tournament tested this time of year. If there's a team that's making Sweet 16s and Final Fours, not many do it as frequently as Michigan State. So I'm pulling for the Spartans this week.
Zach?
I think that's a toss-up game. Yeah, both pretty similar. I think Michigan State has a little more athleticism. So, I'll go with Izzo.
And a game, of course, we talked about it before we went on the air this morning for you NCAA crazies out there, and I'm sure there are many. 1979 was the last time that a team from North Carolina did not make the Sweet 16. 35 years ago. That's the last time that happened, that a team from North Carolina did not make it to the Sweet 16. So all you Carolina lovers, nothing could be finer than a team from Carolina. I don't think you're going to be singing that this morning. But anyways, Iowa State shocks Carolina, takes on Connecticut. Your thoughts, Eric?
Well, Connecticut seems destined for one of those runs.
Bingo.
Know, they a couple years ago we were talking earlier with Kemba Walker.
Right.
Shabazz Napier's that type of player. You know, he scores in bunches and they're electric. I don't know their matchup. That's a coin flip. I really think UConn's running hot right now.
How about you, Zach?
Iowa State's down starter who had 24 in the first round.
Big guy.
Yeah, big guy. But they did beat Carolina. I do think they're going to be at a disadvantage playing UConn in the Garden. I think the Garden is going to. A lot of people from Connecticut are going to
Swarm in there.
Make their way in. So I think they're going to have a little bit of a home court disadvantage.
Well, let's move on to another division. Of course, we're talking about the West. Arizona #1 for several weeks in the NCAA polls. Arizona getting ready to take on San Diego State.
Well, San Diego State making another Sweet 16 run, but I think Arizona's, they're playing pretty well, and they had a strong season all year. You know, they didn't drop too many, two or three losses. I think they cleaned through San Diego State.
Arizona looked great last night. They're tough. I think they're gonna. They've recovered from that injury. I think they're clicking right now.
With all due respect to Albany and their uniforms, I love Baylor's uniforms as well. Baylor moves on. They take on the likes of Wisconsin, who trailed by double digits to Oregon, coming back and winning that game. Baylor versus Wisconsin.
Baylor looked fantastic last night. I knew that'd be a tough matchup for McDermott and Creighton. Baylor's just long, athletic, fast. They're clicking right now, too. I mean, right now all those teams that are in there, I think you're going to have fantastic games all weekend. But my money's on Baylor.
You like Baylor, Zach?
No, I don't think they can play any better than they played yesterday. And I think give Wisconsin a couple days to prep up. I think the Big Ten is proven to be a pretty good conference this year, even though old school Big East and now the new ACC folks. I like Wisconsin in that game.
Everybody said Wichita State didn't play anybody during the regular season. They would find their reckoning in the NCAAs. I'm not so sure you could say that. They played hard basketball. They played phenomenal basketball. They get nipped, however, at the end by Kentucky. And you talk about a matchup that'll bring the folks from Kentucky up on top of their seats. How about Kentucky-Louisville? A brawl.
That Wichita State got a tough draw. You play Kentucky, and that was a fantastic game. I mean, we were talking, Zach and I at breakfast this morning. It was up and down, and it's too bad. But that Louisville Kentucky game, everybody's looking forward to. I think it's going to be, and Kentucky's playing. They looked great yesterday. They struggled, had their 8-9 losses this year, but the talent's there. It's Kentucky, so it should be a great game.
Zach,
I thought that game that was the best game of the tournament I've seen. But I'll go with Louisville based on the fact that Rick Pitino has never lost a Sweet 16 game.
Wow.
Yeah, never.
There you go.
That's pretty impressive. I do think Calipari and him don't like each other very much. They're going to be nice all week, but they really don't like each other.
All for blood.
And that's a rivalry right there. I know if you I heard a guy on the radio, I'm from Kentucky. I never root for Louisville. And I heard the same. So that would be a fun game.
And if you're talking about ACC teams remaining, there's one, Virginia, but Louisville comes next year. So, the ACC, I guess, has to take what they can get at this point. They're probably going to be rooting for the Cardinals.
And a team that was below my dog radar was Tennessee all season. I really didn't get excited about this team. But they seem to be putting it together. They got the bigs. They got a lot of big guys in that squad. They're taking on the likes of Michigan.
Yeah, sort of caught off guard by Tennessee. They had a nice run late in the season. Got in the first round game where they had to play last Tuesday or Wednesday. They've won 3 in a row. I think they're going to have their hands full with Michigan. Michigan's playing pretty well right now.
Zach?
Yeah, Michigan's been there before. Beeline's a great coach. Tennessee, I think the Tuesday game went to overtime. I can't remember. It was really close. I mean, they could have lost to Iowa, and then they got a nice break having to play Mercer. So Michigan was awfully impressive in their win versus Texas.
So there's a capsule rundown. Of course, my pick to go to the finals and to win the entire event was Florida. You kind of lean toward Eric?
Yeah, Florida. Yep, I thought Florida was the team to beat.
And how about you, Zach?
I picked Louisville at the beginning.
Okay, they're still alive.
So, yeah, I'll stick with them. They didn't look very good versus St. Louis, but they still won. So that's a
win is a win is a win.
Yeah.
Hey, before we get ready to wrap this baby up, it's amazing how fast time flies here. Eric Kuhn, of course, and Zac Young joining us from Lyons. Again, thanks to their Steve Veter and the administration for letting them come in this morning. What's always intrigued me is how important, I know you both obviously coach, How important, Eric, is winning, and do you think winning is everything in the world of basketball that you coach, or is it something that you, as long as you coach, you want to see a supreme effort by everybody? Is that good enough for you, even if you take a loss? I guess where I'm going with this is you see so much about people getting excited about people winning and losing and firing the coach, et cetera, because you're not winning enough games. How important is winning to you personally?
Personally, I don't know. I'm one of those flatliners. I don't get too up on a big win, don't get too down on a loss. I mean, it's important. We're varsity coaches.
Sure.
You know, we always are going to have issues as far as kids playing time,
right,
et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, my goal there, I mean, number one goal, obviously, is as a competitor is to win. Now, you got all the other things that go along, dealing with scholar athletes as far as, you know, their sportsmanship on the course, their academics. But, you know, playing-wise, play to win, it's important.
And, Zach, of course, I know you certainly are trying to win when you get on the court. That's obviously the goal. How important is it to you if you don't win, in your mind?
That's a great question. You know, you always want to try to win, but if your kids execute your game plan and you have good practices leading up to it and you feel like they're prepared and you still lose, then I never sleep bad. Mm-hmm. But when that, I get even more amped up, even if we win and we don't play well. Like that is frustrating to me. So just as long as you can get your kids to play at the highest level as possible, that's kind of my goal as a coach.
Well, I got to follow up with another question that has nothing to do with that, but it has to do with college athletes, college people leaving college and going in, or actually playing for big major college programs. For example, Eric, Michigan, the football program drawing $115,000 a week. Do the kids get enough with that full ride scholarship, or are you leaning toward the aspect that a lot of people now, there's lawsuits, I guess, pending, where athletes want to get paid a certain stipend, some cash on top of their scholarship? Where's your position on that? Do you believe that the scholarship, the free ride for the 4 years is sufficient, or do you think that the schools are making so much money that the kids who are literally ones that people are coming to watch?
Right, that's a tough one because, you know, a scholarship. What else do scholastic athletes play for? Is that Division I scholarship? But the NCAA makes
zillions of
dollars for a nonprofit organization,
right.
And you know, and it, obviously this money helps the schools. It goes to not just athletics, but you know, other sports teams and you know, other school programs. I mean, it's just so much money. It's tough because if you're going to pay your D1 football player from Michigan, or you're going to pay your D1 women's rower from you know, something state in Virginia, you know, it's tough. It's tough.
Zach, your opinion on whether or not a scholarship is sufficient enough for today's college athletes?
I just know I had to pay a lot of school loans. So, you know, a scholarship is a huge advantage for a kid. I don't think a lot of kids sometimes at that highest level take full advantage of it, you know, if they're just their goal is to play in the NBA or NFL. But I do think it's hard to, as Eric said, administer. Mm-hmm. You know, I wish they would lessen some of the rules about, you know, their
going
sanctions.
to your grandmother's funeral.
That, you know,
a plane ticket.
Like, can they work? You know, like, it's just hard to regulate it. I know most schools have, you know, the compliance officer now and multiple compliance officers. I think Coach Miller from Geneva, I think that's his job. One of his jobs at Hobart is just to, and obviously there's not scholarships at Hobart, but there's certain sanctions that go with it. I wish they would give the kids, you know, it's kind of hard when you see not a Syracuse jersey with a number on it that belongs to a kid. They don't have their name on it.
Right.
And the kid's not getting any money out of it. If you watched the 30 for 30 with the Michigan Fab Five, that was a really great piece about it. And all of those guys still to this day remain bitter that they didn't get some of the money from that. You know, Jalen Rose like flat out says, Chris Webber, Joanne Howe, they all said flat out, you know, people were making a lot of money off us, and you know, that's a lot.
I think it's going to end up in court down the road. I think there's some lawsuits that are pending out there that some of these athletes have taken.
How about this idea? How about, first of all, the scholarship is a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
And people that, I agree with you, Zach, people that say, oh, who cares about the scholarship, they never paid school loans because it's a significant amount of money. U of R's tuition is now $60,000 a year. They just announced this weekend. It's gone up. So it's a lot. That's a lot of money. But what I would do is I would let these guys, the ones that are able to, either make money signing autographs or through merchandising or commercial deals, put that money aside until they are no longer amateurs, and then they get it. So it goes into an account. They graduate. Now, that way, if you're Tim Tebow, you probably got $2 million waiting for you when you get out of high school. Right. If you're C.J. Fair, you probably have a couple $100,000 that you might have earned. And if you're I'm trying to think of, if you're DeJuan Coleman, you probably got nothing. but because that helps solves the distribution of funds. Like you said, if you're going to play all the women's tennis players at Syracuse, well, they don't have as much earning potential, I guess. So I think that if you let them earn money on the side, but not get it until they forego their amateur status, that's a solution. But what do I know? I'm no Jay Billis.
Well, it's going to be interesting because I do believe that you're going to have some major lawsuits coming up on this deal, and whether or not the athletes get paid additionally, including the scholarship, it'll be remain to be seen. Because I always think, Eric, it's amazing. I always think of Michigan because of football, the 115,000 people there. Hey, would they all be there if those athletes weren't decent out there playing football? I don't know. No. I'm not so sure. All right, you're a golf coach. I won't let you go until you give me your master's pick. Of course, Tiger Woods, sore back, needs to get that icy hot and cold. I carry it in my golf bag. I don't understand the issue here. His swing is everywhere. Who do you like in the Masters coming up in a couple of weeks?
I like, after watching this weekend, even though he just deep sixth yesterday, was Adam Scott. He looked great for a couple days and looked awful yesterday. But his game's clicking. I'm going back-to-back Adam Scott this year.
Okay. That's not happened very often.
No.
Up Tiger, you think he's ever going to get the Jack's record?
Boy, every major that goes by, you think there's less chance of it. He's still, last year he still won 4 or 5 tournaments. But in the majors, he's just not getting it done.
Not going to happen.
I think the problem is there's too many young bucks there that are not intimidated by him anymore.
Not anymore.
Remember years ago?
They used to wet their pants.
They would.
Wet their pants on Sunday playing.
It's amazing. These Jordan Spieths, these young kids today, these Jimmy Walkers. Goodbye, Irene. It's going to be interesting. We'll have to wait and see. So, hey, guys, thanks a lot for taking time out to come in this morning. I know the time has flown by. We'd love to have you come back someday.
Hey, Doug.
Sure. Yep.
Before you go, I just got to say one thing. After that Syracuse game, you get on Facebook and you get on the social networks and you listen to the call-in shows.
Right.
And, all you people that are bashing C.J. Fair need to check yourself.
Yep.
I was upset that C.J. Fair missed some shots.
Sure.
But nobody's more upset that Syracuse lost than C.J. Fair and his career's over. And don't celebrate when C.J. Fair dunks in Otto Porter's face and then bash C.J. Fair for missing outside shots at the end of his senior year.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say.
And that was a comment by the owner of this operation. I like it. He shows the orange color. By the way, hey, you know what? It's tough. But I like Fair. I've always liked him as a player. And I'd like to have his commission on his NBA contract. It'd be worth a couple of bucks. Hey, by the way, upcoming shows, just so you're check us out. Next week, we have a legend up in Waterloo. His name is Mike O'Brien. Refers Obi, the barber supreme. He thinks he knows sports. He thinks he knows how to cut hair. He's coming in on the couch. We're going to work him over. Years ago, when I used to do Weber on Sports or WSFW Radio, he filled in while I was vacationing in Florida. He thinks he knows everything about everything. We're going to test him next week on the couch. So don't forget about that show. Then the following week, we talk about, speaking of the Masters, we have Eric Red Lorenzetti coming on the show. Eric, of course, now in charge of all the golf operations at Turning Stone. He got that job. He's doing an outstanding effort, getting ready to roll those outstanding courses at Turning Stone. If you've ever had a chance to play some of them, they are dynamite. Lorenzetti will be on the couch. And then speaking of Waterloo, Zach's hometown, Chelsea Steinruck wants to be a broadcaster. She's a junior, going to be a senior next year for the Waterloo girls varsity team under their coach Mike Bree. She wants to be a sportscaster. We're going to give her a chance to do a show with the dog April 14th. That's coming up. That's the first day of spring break in Waterloo. So those are our upcoming shows. We look forward to having you check us out each and every Monday. Again, thanks, Eric. Thank you very much, guys, for coming in. Take care, everybody, and we're hoping and praying that we can see 35 degrees before the dog turns 75. Have a great week, everybody. That's a look at Weber this week. My way.